Remember this keyboard? It's the one that took the keyboard scene by storm last year, the MW65. And let's be honest, who could forget it? With a price tag of only $60, it offered features that you will usually only find on more expensive keyboards. But here we are in 2023, does this keyboard still make sense for us? Now, the MW65 R2 is what we have here. Gasket mount with a full acrylic body, from top to bottom, left to right, and an acrylic plate across the R1 and R2. The main difference between these two keyboards is the packaging and the PCB. But what sets the R2 apart is the introduction of some flex cuts to the PCB, which adds some extra softness to the typing experience. I personally think this is a huge set-off, which I will come back later, and the PCB has been updated from black to white, and don't ask me why. The MW65 offers 3 common colorways as you see in the typical plastic keyboard. We got transparent, glossy black, and matte black. With foams separately sold, you also have the option to buy better looking cover for your rotary knob. From my experience, the R1 had one significant issue. Some keys just wouldn't work when tested on the VIA itself, which was frustrating for users, and this was quickly addressed by the manufacturer. But the R2 has addressed this issue, ended up with a better QC PCB. Starting with the packaging, there's honestly nothing much to show off here. It just comes with a better looking box this time, but all the contents inside remain the same as the R1. You will find standardized pieces of acrylics, washers, knobs, screws, gasket strips, and of course the PCB itself. Speaking of the PCB, the R2 has flex cuts with south-facing RGB, which is a nice touch. However, the instruction manual was not provided, and the only way to access the guide is from their GitHub repo. Who needs a printer manual when you have GitHub at your fingertips? On top of that, if you notice though, it requires a PCB mount stabilizers, yet no stabilizers were provided by the manufacturer. So the things that you have to prepare is keycaps, switches, and the stabilizers. For my build, I will be using my good old friend, the Gateron KS3, looped with Krytox 205 grade 0. As for my stabilizers, Durock step is my go-to because it is economically reasonable and offers promising results all the time. As for the foams, I decided to use PE foams with plate foam, plus tape mod at the back of the PCB. Finally, for my keycaps, I'll be using a minimal white on black keycaps to finish everything off. Going with this route, I consider it the safe route as I don't see any spot for you to mess up. Now, the most anticipated part, the typing test. Take a pause, grab your headphone, and let's hear it. The typing experience is really soft, like on a trampoline. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that, but what I do know is that I can't stick with it for too long. It is a keyboard that sounds pleasing to me, but not comfortable in the long run. The reason is simply because of the gasket mount, acrylic plate, and the crazy amount of flex cuts on the PCB. The flex cuts have really introduced an unwanted amount of softness and kinda destroyed the feel to it. I get that as people always say follow the trend, but I think it is not a wise move made by the company. If I can make things right, I might change the plate to Alu or PC at least. Another thing to note is the keyboard's lightweight due to its acrylic enclosure. Oftentimes you will shift the keyboards accidentally or unintentionally as you type. Although this is a very small issue, but it is very noticeable as you type. So, who is this for? I think it is an easy keyboard to recommend for people who are just getting into the keyboard scene. But I must say, this is indeed a solid board. One keyboard I can think of that shares the same DNA as the MW65 is the KBD67 by Cape Defense. Although it is still nowhere close, but they have a similar intention, cheap and talk as a result. The MW65 reminds me of my childhood, just like building a Lego. It offers a sense of achievement upon completing, which I don't think much keyboards have offered at this time. So, the big question, is it still relevant? An instant yes. You can definitely achieve a decent sounding profile from a fully acrylic body on such a tight budget. There's literally close to zero room for you to mess up. A really easy keyboard to recommend for the beginners. I wish you all the best if you decide to give the MW65 a shot. So that's all from me. See you on the next video.